Good evening. My name's Yusuf Jansirakuza. I'm your vice chairman, and tonight will be your host for our virtual Sheffield United Fans Forum. Today marks the first anniversary of Prince Abdullah's sole ownership of the club. And I know there's a lot of interest out there in what our plans are for the future and what Prince Abdullah wants to do with the club. We would have liked to have had this fans forum in person 1 year ago. About 400 of you were able to join us in the Platinum Suite. Due to the conditions of the pandemic, we have to do it this way, though there's an advantage, I think, in that more of you can participate and ask questions. We asked solicited questions through our website last week and had a tremendous response, and thank you for that. There were almost 200 questions. We've selected a representative sampling. Many of you asked questions on similar topics, and we've tried to aggregate those and pick the best examples. I'll be asking those questions throughout the forum of our panel. I'll be reading, so every once in a while I'll be looking up, and that might look a little bit odd, but it's because I'm reading your questions verbatim. Let me first introduce our panel. First, His Royal Highness Prince Abdullah bin Mossad, His Highness Prince Mossad bin Khalid, our chairman, and Stephen Bettis, our CEO. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
A few days ago, I inadvertently took Chris's advice and started watching 8 minutes in. I don't plan on making a habit of it, but maybe this time it was for the better. As Chris said after the match, I thought the team showed character after a miserable first few minutes and overall played well against a top 7 side. So the first question is for Prince Abdullah from Flynn O'Dwyer of Eastbourne. Prince Abdullah, what do you think about Sheffield United doing so well in the first season of the Premier League? And what are your expectations for the club this year? Up the Blades.
I think we had very good first year, and no doubt about it. Everybody in the world talks about it. But I think we should now forget about last year and know that we have a tough year ahead of us. And I said that not after the result yesterday, Monday. I said that after the last season finished. So I think it will be another good year. It's going to be difficult, but that's what's expected. I mean, Premier League is a very difficult league, but we have a good team. We have added some young talent. We trust Chris, and above all, we're looking forward to the fans coming back to the stadium. I really think they give us a huge boost. Despite of yesterday result, I did change my opinion. I think it will be a good year, but it's going to be tough.
Prince Mossad, anything to add?
I agree, and we should prove to everyone that we are not one-season wonders. And I trust that under the leadership of Chris and with the great transfer market that we had, I think we will have a great season.
Okay, another question for Prince Abdullah from Lee Bramall in Sheffield. We've had similar questions from several other United fans, including Thomas Hill, Dean Kirkham, Adrian Bradbury, Tim Von Spencer, Matt Bianco, James Elson, and Nathan Kelsel. Prince Abdullah, do you still plan to expand Bramall Lane, even though the club does not own the land at the back of the Kop?
I think we intend to do many projects, but unfortunately, we had a very unusual off-season, and I think we only could do one this year, which do about the first team building, but we intend to, in the next off-season, to do 2 or 3 of them, and I'd let Stephen talk about which ones we will do, but I think it will take time, but next off-season, we intend to do at least 2 or 3. Stephen?
Yeah, I
Stephen?
think I'll just touch on the actual question, which is about the issue with the land at the back of the cop. Yeah, I mean, it's correct. There is an element behind the cop that we don't currently own, but we have already planning permission achieved for an extension to the cop, which takes account of this and also factors that in so that the construction and the access to the stadium are not affected by this land. So going forward, that won't be an issue for us if we continue to not own that site.
Yeah, and the land that that Lee is talking about is actually on John Street. We do own the land directly behind the cop.
Yes, correct.
Right. Okay, a similar question in the same vein from Peter Sales of Godstone in Surrey, and maybe I'll throw this one to Stephen. The club continuously achieved full capacity at home games. Are there any plans to expand the ground capacity? Now would be a good time as supporters are not able to attend home games. Why don't you tell us a bit, Stephen, about the challenges of construction and hosting home matches in regards to this question?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, was it Peter? Peter's right. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to have pretty much full capacity for the majority of our games this season, so showing what great support we have. And there are 100% plans for us to increase the capacity of the stadium. We already have planning permission for the south stand and for the cop to actually extend both stands. We currently are just over about 32,000 capacity, and I think if we put those stands in place based on the current planning permissions, we'd then be in excess of 40,000 with much better improved facilities all round and better commercial elements to the stadium as well. So I mean, it's well known as well that we did lose a few seats when we came into the Premier League due to the huge media requirements, and it'd be great for us to be able to get those back and also add to it so that we can get more people in and make the atmosphere even better than it is now at our stadium in the long term.
Good, thank you. Mr. Chairman, a question from Richard Wild of Sheffield. Can we meet and have a brew together sometime? That would be absolutely fantastic. Please make it happen. Also, what are you doing to ensure you continue to grow and develop Sheffield United?
Well, it will be an honor to meet you, Richard, maybe for a grease chip party. And in terms of what are we doing to continue to grow the club? First of all, from a business perspective, it is very important that we have a financially stable club, and Debbie Andrew, our head of finance, and Abdul Ghamdi, our board member, and Stephen Bettis are hands-on with it. So we want to have a healthy financial club. So this is very important for us. And in terms of the people are the most important thing to the club. I work very closely with Vicky Anderson, our head of HR, and we are achieving great things for the staff, and hopefully we will continue to improve. And in terms of the players, we have a great manager, and we had a good transfer window. We brought in young players, and I believe the future of the club looks very bright.
Good. Okay, a business-related question from Joe and Hal Stewart of High Wycombe. How much can you share about contract information when we sell a young player? For example, if buyback deals are possible, would it not be wise to consider these for any young players we sell, given the amount of our talent that have gone on to be top footballers? Do we already include a sell-on percentage as a standard contract term? I think this is a good question for you, Stephen.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think without going to specifics of each contract, as they're obviously confidential, I can touch on the various points. I mean, since my involvement with the club in the last 4 to 5 years, we've never let one player leave our club without having a sell-on. along with future, so we get a share of any future proceeds from sales that the other clubs make on these players. So we've already done that historically and continue to doing that going forward. I think buybacks are definitely something that we can discuss more now that we're in the Premier League, and it makes a big difference. I think another one is options to buy when we loan players as well. I think that the more time goes on, the more we learn. I think doing deals now with Premier League clubs that we wasn't doing historically has shown the vast amount of, some of these clubs have huge legal teams behind them historically, and they do some clever things in their contracts, all of which we're picking up and learning from as we go along. And I think we'll be getting better at stuff like that. But all I can say is historically, we've never let one person leave this club without a sell on, and I think that's a positive for us.
Great. Nick Turner of Sheffield wants to know, how much debt has the club had to take on with our purchase of the club? My concern is a similar scenario to the one with the Glazer family and Manchester United. Prince Abdullah, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, I think the fans should not be worried. Those loans, especially the real estate ones, are taken. The club has to pay them through, but it's under my personal guarantee. If we are in the Premier League for the next 2 years, I think we will not have any problems. And as I said in the beginning, action speaks louder than words. We've been always active in the transfer window. I think our record shows that. I think, of course, we had some unpleasant surprise with the corona and some lost revenue, but despite of that hiccup, I think we'll be in good shape.
There were a lot of questions for you, Prince Abdullah, and here's another one from Rory Freeman of Sheffield. COVID-19 has changed the footballing landscape for all clubs. What position are Sheffield United in? How has the pandemic affected finances? And what specific things are the club doing to ensure the successful management of the club moving forward?
First of all, I think the amount of the hit we took is about £20 million. I'm sure some clubs maybe took a bigger hit than us, some of them maybe less, but it's an unfortunate thing. And money is not the most important thing. Many people lost their lives. Life as we know it has been disturbed. So we have to look at the big picture. We, by the way, thank everybody in the NHS that has worked hardly in the past few months. And we pray for a quick, that we found vaccine or we found a cure for this COVID. And other than that, I think I'm very proud of our record. We paid our employees in full. We did not take any government from the money. We spent in the transfer market. But I cannot deny. Things are not normal, and the things we miss most about it is the fans. I really believe our record last year would have been better if the fans were allowed, especially in the FA Cup. We lost very close game to Arsenal at home in the FA Cup. I think if our fans were there, they would have made a difference. But we can't complain overall. It's something that affected the whole world. And it had been a tough time. When I think about the things we could have done with the 20 million, we could have done many good things to the club, but we can't complain. We can't. We have to move forward, and we're moving forward, and that's why I'm optimistic about the future. I think, as I said, this year will be tough, but we will survive it, and we'll go to better and bigger things, I hope.
We all hope. Yeah. Stephen, do you have anything to add? Stephen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think Prince Abdullah's touched on it. I think we've lost in the region of about £20 million last season, which unfortunately as he said, it's not the most important thing. There's lives that have been lost, etc. But we have to make plans around those losses. I don't think anyone could have foreseen this coming historically, and hopefully something like this never happens again. But I think what we've done, the changes we've made, the decisions that we've made have put us in a sustainable and good position to continue to move forward. And we've still been active in the transfer market, as he said. I mean, look, the situation's ongoing. Unfortunately, every game that's behind closed doors, we're still losing revenue, etc. And we're taking away these amazing experiences from our supporters, unfortunately. And hopefully sometime soon, the world gets back to normal, and we can all be enjoying the games together.
Alan Crawshaw, Phil Whitaker, Linda Dawson, John Nunes, and several others had questions about season tickets. Stephen, why don't you answer this? Can you update us on the club's plans and policies regarding season tickets?
Yeah, I mean, as much as possible. It's an ever moving and changing target, really. We were very conscious to not. I mean, we know some clubs that have obviously gone out and sold season tickets for next season already and taken money from supporters, etc. And I think we was always very conscious and very mindful to not be taking money from our supporters when we couldn't guarantee that they would be getting a return in terms of being able to sit in their seats and watch the games. So it's a continually changing landscape, which we're watching. I mean, I thought we was getting close to supporters coming back in October, and there have been many discussions with the Premier League around this. But with the latest rises and spikes in the infection, there's concerns that now October is going to be too soon for that to happen. So we're continually watching it. I mean, we're talking as a collective within the Premier League itself. All the chief execs meet regularly, and we talk about strategies and ways of moving it forward. But the key thing for us is until we know that people can actually come and watch games, we're not going to start thinking about charging them or asking for money from them. But when that time comes, we'll obviously communicate as much in advance as possible.
Okay. A question from Stephen Wheatley of Leeds, and I think I'll put this one to all of you. The progress we have made as a club from where we were 4 years ago is unbelievable and is a testament to Chris and the wider team. What is your vision for us as a club over the next 4-year horizon? Prince Abdullah, why don't you start us off on that?
I really think that, of course, we're very proud of what the club has achieved the past few years. But I think now, being in the Premier League, I always thought that our first 2-3 years should be used to establish ourselves a Premier League team and not to get relegated. But then after that, we should shoot for always a top 10 finish and maybe Europe. Despite of our fantastic start last year, I think this year and next year will still be challenged, and we need to build up and invest in the team more and more. And that's why I think I share what Chris said before the Wolves game. He said maybe this was the best window since he joined the club. And one reason for that, I think, is because most of the players we brought are really young players, and some of them maybe are not starters. But I really think we're building the core for the next team, because you can't rest in your success or feel very safe when you have 1 year or you have few good results. Premier League is the most not only the most followed league in the world, but it's the most tough. I think I always say maybe from 1 to 4 you could argue that Spain has a better league, but if you go from 4 to 100, like from the best 4th club or the best 5th club in the world to the best 100 club in the world, I don't think anybody can compete with England. The club who finished 70 or 80, like maybe in League 3, League 1 or League 2, is better than the number 80 team in the world anywhere. I mean, English football is really competitive, and there is no easy games. You can't like some of the other big leagues in Europe. You could predict some of the results, but with the Premier League, any team can beat any team, any given day. And we saw Norwich City last year beat Manchester City. Norwich City was a promoted team, and they got relegated in the same year. And yet they managed to beat Manchester City. Watford, who got relegated, managed to hand Liverpool their first loss last year. So it's very tough league. I think we should we should, as I said, establish ourselves as a Premier League the first 2-3 seasons, and then after that, I think we should be one of the cornerstones of the Premier League, and we should be always one of the top 10 clubs in the league.
Yeah. Prince Masad?
Yeah, to Prince Abdullah's point, we want to establish ourselves as a Premier League club. When you think of the Premier League clubs, like for example, Everton is always there. We want in 10 years and hopefully more, when you think of the Premier League, Sheffield United is always there, and with our DNA and our identity, because we have a very unique style of play and identity, and we are very proud of that. And hopefully we will be in the Premier League for many, many years.
Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all kind of touching on the same subject. The most important thing is sustaining Premier League football. I think we all know the difference in the gulf in terms of the income and the foundation that the Premier League gives you compared to the Championship to actually improve and create a legacy for this football club. And I think not only staying in the Premier League, but I like to touch on, and I know Prince Abdullah's touched on it numerous times before, creating a legacy for this football club. We need to ensure that not only we're improving the squad and pushing that forward, but also improving the facilities, the stadium, the training facilities, the academy, the women's team, and that there's various plans in place and various discussions that are happening, looking at all of those areas in order to make improvements that will put a foundation for this football club that for many years to come should put them in a good place, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Can I ask Chris a question? Stephen a question? Stephen, can you of course, we're now doing the first team building. Can you update us about that? This is number one. Number two, I know that it was very unusual, off-season and very short one. But can you touch some of the projects we think we can do the next off-season, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I think if we touch on the first team building first, in an ideal world, we was hoping to do all of the work in the off season, so there was minimum disruption to the players and the first team. But unfortunately, with COVID and the shorter window and shorter period between the end of the season and the start of the new one, that's not been possible. So we are currently in for planning for the new first team building. The consultation period ends next week. Anticipate a couple of weeks after that, assuming there are no objections, which we don't expect there to be any. We will then get planning and we can commence construction. We're going for this modular design on the first team building, which means that in essence it's built off site and delivered in pieces and then put together, which enables there to be less construction disruption at the first team and the academy facilities. So it's a better option for us, and it's also quicker in terms of construction. We anticipate the new first team building being finished early next year. Is the answer. In terms of the other works that we looked at for the stadium, we had a number of plans in place, looking at removing the columns in the COP, looking at improving all of the corporate areas, etc. But unfortunately, all of those got put on hold due to, one, the delay to the end of the season, and two, an element of the financial impact of COVID. Hopefully, with a good season finishing on time this year, we then have the ability to look at a number of those options and implement a number of those things in next season's closed period.
Thank you.
Can you share with the fans, Stephen, some of the facilities that the first team will have in the new building?
Yeah, I mean it's real. It's going real state of the art compared to we are now. we've got kind of cryotherapy chambers and stuff like this, and all this wonderful sports science, which, in all honesty, I don't understand. But we've got experts around us to do that. I mean, just the whole design and feel of it makes it just a much better working environment for the players to work in. And I think we all know that in the Premier League, it's fine margins. We're talking about that extra 1 or 2% at times that turns a loss into a draw or a draw into a win. And we think these facilities can give us that in order to help Chris and the team get a couple of extra points in a game or in a season that can be the difference in finishing further up the league. So we've worked really closely with all of our coaching staff in terms of they've had a huge amount of input into the facilities. The construction company themselves have done a number of other Premier League clubs historically. They actually did Bournemouth, who unfortunately got relegated this season, but I know the guys at Bournemouth really well. And we looked at what they built for them, and I also sort of had long discussions with them about if they were doing it again, the way they would, what improvements they would make. And we've used their ideas and thoughts, because they've been really helpful in that respect, to actually even improve our facilities further, so that we hope we're getting something that really we can be proud of, and makes the team improve going forward.
Yusuf, can I say something before you continue?
Yeah, sure.
I want to tell our fans a story. I mean, when the last season finished, Chris called Yusuf and said, I don't care about transfers. What I care most about is first team building. So Yusuf called me and said that Chris really wants first team building to finish. And I told Yusuf, of course we'll finish it, but don't ever believe Chris that he doesn't care about the transfer. He will come and have a spend every last pound of the transfer budget we had. And I found out that I was wrong, because he managed to have spent double the transfer window.
And still get the first team building.
Yes, I did. So next off season, don't believe anything Chris say when it comes to transfer.
Yeah. He can be very persuasive, and he's passionate about improving our team.
When he said that only transfer building this year, this is what I care about, I knew that was going to be only for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then.
That's why he's a great manager, and that's why.
I remember what I was talking to Steve a few days ago. That's what we should be happy. I mean, when Chris wants a player or he keep talking about it, he keep insisting he cares, and I would rather have a coach or anybody who works for me that cares a lot than one who doesn't care.
Yeah, yeah. Chris is one of our own, right?
Yeah.
Along these lines, Stephen, now that we own the Enterprise Center, I know the board has been discussing some changes to the front of the stadium and where the administrative offices and retail locations are. You want to share some of the thoughts and plans there?
Yeah, sure. I think now that, the great thing is that now the club owns the majority of the footprint around the stadium, which has been a long time since that has been the case. So we now have full control over it and can utilise it to the maximum to ensure that we have the best facilities possible here. The Enterprise Centre, for people that don't know, is on the corner of the stadium on Bramall Lane, and it's office facilities that historically have been rented out to third parties. We're now looking at taking 2 entire floors over there and moving our entire operation over there, so that all of the staff can be together. We can all work more closely as a team, and the facilities will be a much better layout and a much better working environment for all of the team, which is a real positive that everyone's excited about. And we're hoping to be in a position to move into that before the end of the year. So it's really exciting for everyone in that respect. I think, we talked about the various elements of the stands, etc., that in the slightly longer term we'd like to make improvements to. But I'm also looking at generally the footprint around the stadium as well, and trying to see if we can make better fan experience areas. Liverpool did a great thing, which their chief exec was very kind enough to give me a tour of when we played them last season. And some of the stuff they've done there was excellent and really engaging with the fans, and just makes the whole day out a better experience for them. And we've got a couple of ideas on that as well, which I'm working on at the moment to hopefully get implemented for at some point as soon as our supporters can come back in the stadium.
Great. Principella Richard Heppelstone of Sheffield wants to ask if you think we could build on last season, and if needed, halfway through the coming season, buy some more players to help us get to Europe or to avoid relegation.
As I said, I mean, I think when fans look at what we do, I notice most of them only think about the players, player acquisition. But I really think that it's three areas that they always they should think about. Number one, of course, the player we acquire, or the transfer, what we do in the transfer window. But the other two things that they always have to also not to forget is that we managed to extend or renew the contracts for many of the players who play for the team, and they are like the cornerstone of the teams. Like if you look at all the players we managed to like Egan, there are many like almost the whole team. I think we managed to have our team, like most of our team, signing new contracts, and that's very important. It's not to lose any of the players we have. The other area they also should think about is that we also manage not to keep all our players, because it's easy sometimes to capitalize financially in your success and sell some of your outstanding players. And I remember a call last year, Stephen called me and said that we have an interest from one Premier League club about a player we have. And I remember even before I heard the name, I told him, no, we're not going to sell. I mean, unless we have to sell, we want to keep all our good core players. And I think that also should go to how we think, because I think you should, number one, take care of the players you have, be fair to them and to the club. Number two, to keep your team as much as you can, unless when you sell a player, you can bring a good, similar or better replacement, or of course, if the players ask to leave and you can't do anything about it, and acquire like good players. And I always said that action speaks louder than words. Last year we broke our we broke the club transfer record 4 times. If it wasn't for what we paid for Sander Berger, what we paid for Ramsdale this year would have broken our transfer record. We paid, I think everybody says 18.5, and the number is close to that. But and that, of course, with saving 15%, 15% that the one we had, and or to the 15% the sell-on which we saved, we would have paid more if it wasn't for that. So, but I really, we always also have to manage the risk, because we don't want to, for us to, I mean, for the club to have the same problems that some of the other clubs who overspent when they are in the Premier League and then they get relegated, and they have then to sell most of their players and have financial troubles for years. Even if, God forbid, the worst happen and we get relegated, we want to bounce immediately back to the Premier League, and we cannot do that if we spend unwisely. I don't think we will, of course, I mean, there are many variables that now we don't know about, like maybe if you ask me last season before the year started, or ask any financial like manager of any club, like predict the revenue for next year, he would have given you accurate projections. But now there are so many unknowns, like will the fans be back or not? Nobody knows. Will we finish the season or not? Nobody knows. Will the TV revenue get affected or not? We don't know. So I don't think we can really talk about next transfer windows and what we are going to do. And like maybe like fans in Sheffield United don't know me as much as fans in Saudi Arabia, and I'm sure they're getting to know us more. But I really don't like to give promises or give a word that I can't keep, and I don't like. I mean, and that sometimes is not popular. But I don't know. I can't comment about the coming transfer windows. I mean, if you look at what happened the past two transfer windows, I'm very proud of what we did. It doesn't mean we can spend the same money in the next transfer window or the window after. It has to be window by window, and looking at the finances of the team, looking at the status of the league and the revenue, and we'll take a decision then.
Okay. Following up on Prince Abdullah's comments, Sheffield United has sought to have a voice at the Premier League on some of these important issues in these unpredictable times, issues such as curtailment and what the league does if there's an interrupted season. Stephen has been sitting on a committee and addressing some of these policy issues. Stephen, do you have some insights for the fans?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously what happened last season, no one could foresee. There was nothing in the rule books around how we plan for it or what we do when it happens. So we were working, with a blank piece of paper. And what the Premier League are trying to do now is implement rules to go forward so that in the worst case scenario, and hopefully it never happens, we get to this position again, either next year, 5 years, 10 years time, and we have a plan that everyone's agreeable on. And these things are best to get done at the start of the season when everyone's played no games and got no points on the board, rather than 75% of the way through the season like we were last time, where there are people fighting for relegation or fighting for European places. So the Premier League are very good in this respect, and they set up a working group which they try to ensure they have various different people on with various different issues and drivers. And I was fortunate enough to be on the working group with West Ham, Man United and Arsenal, and was ensured that our position was heard and ensured that the decisions that will be made going forward in respect to curtailment are fair on all teams within the league, and to ensure that it didn't just make teams stronger within the top six, as an example. So it was a real good exercise for us, and I think the outcome of it and the plans going forward will ensure that all clubs within the league are protected, and I'm proud that I was part of it, to be honest.
Yeah, and this is an ongoing issue, isn't it? As we kind of navigate these uncertain times.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's change gears a little bit to commercial issues. Matthew Collins and John Manchester have some questions about sponsorship. Is there any update on our shirt sponsorship deal with USG following the collapse of USG FX in Australia? Are they still complying with all their contractual obligations to us? And what other e-commerce plans does the club have? Stephen, why don't you start us off on that?
Yeah, I think with USG in particular, obviously they had an issue with one element of their business that was in Australia. We're in regular contact with USG directly and their owners. The Australian was one element and one arm of their business. They have they're a worldwide business, and they have interests all over the world other than that. In terms of their contractual commitments, they're completely complying with those. And I think the way we got a very good contract. we had the assistance of a very good lawyer on this contract. We got a very strong contract in our favour, which we ensure that we're paid upfront every season by our shirt sponsor. So if there are any issues within the season, it doesn't affect us. But as I said, we've had the reassurances from them directly and their owners. They've paid in full for this upcoming season. And from our perspective, we have no issues with it.
Good. Prince Masad, can you share with the fans some of our plans and some of what we've done to promote retail and sponsorship internationally?
Well, in Saudi specifically, there has been a lot of interest because I think Sheffield United worldwide, with the style of play and the not lose, like if we lose, we spit blood and our specific DNA. There was a lot of interest. So in Saudi specifically, we sold many merchandise, and it's becoming very popular. And in social media, we became one of the most clubs that have a lot of trends and people visiting it. So that helped us a lot. And hopefully next season and moving forward, we will improve commercially.
Stephen, did you want to say anything about Meadowhall?
Yeah, I mean, I can touch on a few elements in terms of e-commerce as well. I mean, I think we all see the state of the situation now, and e-commerce is becoming a massive way of people shopping in the current climate. And I think it's changing people's attitudes to the way they shop going forward as well, even when hopefully the world does return to normal. So we were working before COVID-19, and we are continuing to work on improving all of our e-commerce side of our business. We should hopefully have a new website soon, a new retail website. We've brought in a digital retail manager to manage all that side of the business for us. As we see, it's an ever-changing world now, and that's an area where we can see improvements in our revenue going forward. I think you touched on Meadowhall. We're pleased to say that we've opened a store at Meadowhall. I'm personally also pleased to say it's significantly larger than Sheffield Wednesday's store at Meadowhall, which gives me great pleasure. And we've seen great support by our fans going there and supporting our club and buying this season's home and away shirts. And I think Prince Masad's already touched on Saudi Arabia. I think the Premier League gives us a global stage now, and with our improvement in e-commerce facilities, sometimes I'm staggered by the countries that people are buying our shirts in now. It's flabbergasting to see certain countries that you think are now aware of Sheffield United, but that's the power of the Premier League, and we need to ensure that we maximise that and also are accessible to fans worldwide.
What everything you're saying, Stephen, is so true. When I walk around Riyadh with a Sheffield United shirt on, and strangers on the street give me the thumbs up when they see the badge, it's a great thing. Okay, let's go back to Prince Abdullah. This question comes from Alan Royal of Kimberworth Park. Can you tell us how much you had to pay to acquire the land and property assets from Kevin, and what proportion of this is covered by the mortgage from Emirates Bank, which has appeared as a charge on our accounts? Would we be able to afford the repayments if we were relegated? Before Prince Abdullah speaks on that, Alan, the arbitration to determine the value of the properties was a confidential proceeding, and so we're not able to disclose the valuation that was determined. We can say that we were pleased with the outcome, and that it was well within our expectations. Prince Abdullah, do you have anything to add?
I think I already touched on that. I think if we get relegated, God forbid, this year, the loan is covered by personal guarantee, and that's one of the risks that I think maybe people should appreciate more. I know that if we stay in the Premier League, the club will be debt-free, as I said, in 2 seasons. And that is not deterring us from doing business in the transfer window, as we proved this year. But if we get relegated, I think I'm taking most of the risks, if not all of it, because I had to put personal guarantee for the loan that we took. And hopefully, it will not come to that. But I think I always say action speaks louder than words. And I'd like just people to look at our record and how we support the club. And I think in 5-10 years from now, when hopefully all the projects we talked about will be done, and people will be, when they look back, then they'll be very happy.
Okay. As a follow-on, Pete Butts asks, my wife and I are massive Blades fans. Our question is about the Copthorne Hotel, which we have used for several years on match days. What are your plans for the hotel moving forward? Stephen, do you have some thoughts on this issue?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that firstly, under the agreement when we purchased the properties, and the hotel was one of those, it was transferred to us with vacant possession, which means that unfortunately we had to, the Copthorne was closed at that point, and the agreement with the operator was cancelled due to that being with Scarborough. And the bad part of that was also that meant that the employees' contracts were also terminated because they were with Scarborough and not with the football club. I think going forward, the positive is the plans for us are to continue to operate it as a hotel. We've been in talks with a number of operators about taking over the hotel going forward. And we're getting pretty close to coming to an agreement with a large hotel operator. I can't say the brand at the moment, but it's a worldwide brand that everybody will recognise when hopefully the deal is finally concluded. We're proud to say that this operator will make significant improvements to the facilities. We'll also ensure that there was potential issues with the cladding on the external of the hotel, and we'll ensure that they're corrected to make sure we have a safe building in the future as well. And I think it will give our travelling fans and the fans from far and wide that now come to watch Premier League games once the stadium's open again, a much better environment to come and stay at and to enjoy Sheffield during their weekends on match days.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the board thinks that the hotel can be a much better facility than it was in the past, and we're overall trying to improve all of our properties so that fans and can have the best experience possible.
Yeah.
Charlie Taylor asks, how does the dynamic amongst the board and the management work? And I'm sure Charlie's question in part echoes some of the issues that came up in our legal dispute with Scarborough, where how the club was managed was one of the key issues. Mr. Chairman, do you have some comments or some thoughts on the relationship between the board and management? And then I'd like to hear from Prince Abdullah on how he sees the role of the owner. But let's start with you, Prince Masad.
Yes, sure. Prince Abdullah, as you know, believes in a strategic board. We challenge one another, but once a decision is made, we let managers implement it. And we don't micromanage, that's for sure. We have good people at the club, and we enable them and give them the autonomy to get on with their jobs. And the dynamics between the management, such as Stephen Bettis and the board, we work very good together. And Stephen presents any issues, and we are very, I enjoy working with Stephen very much and the board. And we are very blessed with that, because to have good people at the club and the board, and for us to all want the same thing, is something very special.
Stephen, how's it working from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to be careful. I got the owner, the chairman, and vice chairman on this call. but all jokes aside,
Speak freely, Sophie.
I really enjoy working with you guys and the rest of the board. I think we, as Prince Fasad said, we all challenge each other. Everyone's happy. If you've got an opinion that's not the same as everyone else's, everyone speaks freely, and we talk it round and come to a decision. I think, Prince Abdullah's extremely hands-on. I think supporters should understand that. In transfer window, I speak to Prince Abdullah about every 30 minutes. And I think he'd probably like more than that if I could get off the phone enough to actually speak to him. So I think the supporters need to understand how close we all do work together. I mean, we're having near enough weekly board meetings at the moment due to the ever-changing landscape and the transfer window and everything's going on around COVID, etc. And as I say, I speak to everyone regularly, and Prince Abdullah himself probably 3 or 4 times a day. So yeah, I enjoy how we work, and I enjoy the freedom that I get to actually manage and run the business on a day-to-day basis.
I'd like to comment here. Of course, I don't have a vote in the board, and I like how the board work. I'll give one example. When we had the transfer of the 2 Derby County guys, I think the board voted 3-2, and it was 2-2. And I don't want to say who voted yes or no, so you can work freely in Sheffield. The people who said no, who voted no. But anyway, it was, I couldn't influence the vote, and I mean, it was a free vote, and but everybody pleaded his case, and the people who disapproved thought that we were going way over budget. But I mean, I like the discussions, because the only interest for everybody is the club interest, and of course, this is one thing I love about the board. The other thing is we always manage to speak freely and disagree with each other, and sometimes we have really heated exchanges, but nobody take it personally, and we always manage to be friends after that. I mean, the measure of, I think, good relationship is not when everybody's agreeing on something. Of course, when everybody's agreeing in anything, it's easy to have a good relationship and to be happy. But even when we disagree with each other, we always do it, defend our positions passionately. And we don't take criticism personally, and that's I really believe until now we've been working we've been very successful. It's just because we managed to speak our minds. Everybody managed to speak our mind. We managed to disagree, and we don't take it lightly, or we all care. You can tell that everybody who's in the board, or Stephen, or Chris, or myself, or we care about the club, and we care about what we think, and we want the best for the club. And that means sometimes we disagree, and we disagree with passion. But at the end of the day, we work as one team, and I'm really proud of everybody in the club. I think, I mean, football has some luck, and you can have luck, you can have bad luck, you can have injuries. But I really think if the biggest reason I'm optimistic about the future of the club is the way everybody works together, and the way everybody cares about the club.
Yeah, I'd second that. I think what I've seen in the last year is robust discussion amongst a lot of strong personalities, but at the same time, we respect the owner for the owner's position, the board as the board, and management as management. And while we have good discussions on the board and frequent discussions, when an instruction is given to Stephen and his team, we don't interfere as a board. It's over to management, and we expect management to perform. And so far, Stephen, you and your team have been doing a great job.
Thank you.
We expect you to continue this year.
No pressure.
But to be honest, and I'm living in Sheffield, and I see that, and we are very blessed to have good people at the club, and this is something that I was impressed the most about. Everyone wants the best for the club, and I work with Stephen Bettis very closely, and we are very lucky.
Okay, a question from Dan Bryan of Barnsley. Prince Abdullah, after seeing the recent purchase of Ismailia Koulibaly and immediately loaning to Beerschot, your club in Belgium, is this something we'll likely see more and more of in the future? Like the idea of the partnership with Beerschot, it can only be a plus. Keep up the good work, Prince. Love to all. Up the blades. It's part of a larger question, I think, on United World and the relationship between Sheffield United and Beerschot and some of the other sports assets that you own. What can you share with the fans?
I think working between the clubs is a plus because let's take this example. I think the player has great potential, but I don't think he will be ready to play for Sheffield United at this time. So for him to go to Belgium and develop his skills and play in very top league in Europe, but maybe not as tough as the Premier League. It helps Beerschot and it helps Sheffield United, and both clubs are very important to us. And we look at the interest of all the clubs. But I think when there is a case where we can do something and benefit all the clubs, we don't hesitate to do it. I think this gives us great flexibility. And when an opportunity come our way and we can help all the clubs and it makes sense to Sheffield United, we would not hesitate to do it. And hopefully this will show in the future one big example of how we can help all clubs, because now he's playing for Beerschot and I think he will help Beerschot. And if he develop as we expect that he will, one day he will help Sheffield United either on the field or financially.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Beerschot is based in Antwerp and plays in the Pro League, which is the top tier of the Belgian Football League. And right now sits at number 2 on the table after a 5-2 win last Monday night. Prince Abdullah also owns Al Hilal United in Dubai. And Prince Abdullah, do you have some thoughts on how Al Hilal United works with the other clubs?
Yeah, I think there are many areas to how all the clubs can benefit. One of them, of course, is players. Other is commercial and sponsorship. When you are in more than one country, it makes you more attractive to sponsors, and that can benefit all 3 clubs. And we have example of one deal that we have which serves all 3 clubs, and some other deals, sponsorship deals coming. When it comes to players, I think England has the toughest is the toughest country to bring in new players. There are many regulations. It's not the player has to be an international player in a top country, or there has to be a large transfer fees. So having 2 clubs in Antwerp and in Dubai, it gives you more flexibility to try players from different parts of the world. And if they prove themselves in any of the 3 clubs, then it opens new opportunities for them and for us to help us in any of the other clubs. So I think that gives us a huge flexibility, and I think time will show. Of course, we started this project, like the oldest club I own is Sheffield United. It's been like maybe 6 or 7 years now. The other clubs I got involved in later stage, but we're also learning as we go. But the way I see it now, it really gives us big flexibility, and it can help all clubs. And I think with time we will improve on how we do things, and it will show that it's a great advantage.
Good. Alan Jackson of Sheffield asked this question 3 times, so I'm going to ask it of each of you. How often do you speak with Chris Wilder? Prince Abdullah?
In the transfer window, I become Chris' best friend. uh, until he gets the last player he wants, and then I don't hear from him for some time. No, because I mean, Chris. I mean, this is what we love about Chris. He really cares about the first team, and he thinks like when he wants a player, as I said in another interview, he makes it. He makes you feel that this is the player who will make all the difference. You have to bring him. It's a must. And then he start to like lobbying with Steven and lobbying with me and lobbying with everybody. And as soon as we get that player, you get like 24 hours. Of like peace, and then the next one comes, and is more important than the old one. But anyway, I like Chris. I like his passion, and of course, we sometimes we talk more like in transfer windows because we need to talk more. But in the regular season, yeah, we talk from time to time. Maybe Saad interact with Chris more and Steven because they're in Sheffield. And I'm not a phone person. Everybody who knows me, I maybe the record for the longest phone call I made is maybe 5 minutes or 6 minutes, unless it's with Steven about transfers.
You're bragging. I don't think it even reaches 5 minutes. Prince Masad?
I enjoy working with Chris very much. He's a leader and he's a great manager, and he has a very positive approach to the game, and he's a winner. Like I personally don't like to associate myself with losers. Chris Wilder is a winner, and we talk frequently, and I respect the work he's done very much.
Mr. Best Man?
I often do I speak to Chris in transfer window every 10 minutes. When transfer window closes, probably 2 or 3 times a day. Chris is usually my wake up call every morning when he's driving to the training ground. I think he literally gets in the car and presses redial and then sits on the phone to me for 45 minutes. But yeah, Chris and I think it's well publicised that we have a really close working relationship. We've both, I've been here 6 months longer than Chris, but we've created this bond together where we work really closely, but respect each other still, and respect each other's positions and boundaries. But yeah, I speak to him an enormous amount, and even I spoke to him today, and he's coming here tomorrow morning for a cup of tea to whilst they're not training, etc. So yeah, I see him and speak to him regularly.
Good, thanks. Anthony Borden asks a question which I think is on the minds of many fans, and it's this: how are fans going to be picked if and when they are allowed back in the stadium? Stephen, maybe this is a question for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really sensitive one, and I understand that, and we've given this a lot of thought. There's a lot of discussion going on within the league as well. I'm still not sure whether ultimately it will be a league decision on how this is done or whether it will remain a club-by-club decision. I think from our perspective, we want to, if we get to that point where the stadium reopens and it's not full capacity, which is highly likely, we want to ensure that our loyal season ticket holders are rewarded for their years of loyalty, and they're given first opportunity to come back and watch the games. We've been in talks with our ticketing provider, who acts for a number of clubs within the Premier League. They've already set up an option, which is a package whereby all season ticket holders go into kind of a lottery, and then they're randomly picked for each game. But we can also look at creating bubbles for families, because we understand, 6-year-old child can't be picked and come on his own, so we'll make sure he's connected with his father or mother or guardian, whoever's bringing him. So there's real complexities to it, and it's still an ongoing discussion, but we're trying to make it as fair and reasonable as possible to ensure that as many supporters and season ticket holders get in to watch as many games as we can.
Okay. In a lighter vein, Stephen, Steve Ashton of York wants to know, what is the most unusual contract request a player has ever made?
I wish I could give you like a really witty and interesting answer to this one. I don't know, like they wanted M&Ms in the changing room, but no blue ones in there or something like that. But I unfortunately, I can't. We've never had any form of strange transfer request from any of the players we signed. And I think on a serious note, both Chris and I, if a player did come in and made some stupid requests, would feel highly uncomfortable with actually signing the player because of that. So I'm pleased to say I've never had that issue to address, and hopefully I don't going forward.
Okay. Prince Abdullah, I'm not sure if this is a question or a request, but Fiona Radford of Harthill asks, Prince Abdullah, would you wrap Chris Wilder in cotton wool and keep him safe at Bramall Lane forever, please? And along the same lines, Dave Ward wants to know what type of manager will be brought in when Chris Wilder is offered the England job.
I think, of course, I mean, with the passion, with the record, with the work that Chris doing, we should try to keep him for as long as we can. And I remember I said in an old interview that he's the Alex Ferguson of our club, and we know how many years Alex stayed in Manchester United. But in another serious note, I think an owner has an obligation to look always after the interest of the club and make the unpopular decisions when they have to be made. And I'm always taking pride in whatever I work, where I worked in Saudi, either in the Hilal or with the national team, or when I worked in sports, that you always should look at the interest of the place you're working in, and to sometimes make the unpopular decision. Why I'm saying that? I'm saying that because anybody, can see now the great work that Chris is doing. And of course, as I said, we want him to be the Alex Ferguson of our club. But if circumstances change, then, if we lose like 15 games or 20 games, then you have to look at the situation you're in. So nobody can give empty guarantees. I mean, we're all judged in our work. And if Chris keep doing what he's doing, he'll always be part of the club. But say that, so you can't give guarantees, but I think Chris' position in the club is as guaranteed as it can be, because we all want to keep him. The other thing is, if Chris goes to the national team, I remember a friend of me, he said, I don't drink, by the way, nor my friend, but he said that coaches are like wine. Not every year you go to the market, you find a good one. So it depends when do you do. I mean, you can't just find, they don't grow out in the tree. So to find a good coach, you have to be lucky. And sometimes you're in the market where there is no exceptional managers. And I take one of what Jan, our friend in the board, Jan Winkel, said about Chris. He said, he told me 2 or 3 years ago that he thinks, and I give him credit for that Chris is one of the best top 50 managers in the world. And at the time I told him, really, because Jan worked with many great coaches before, and he worked with me in Saudi, he worked with Bielsa, he worked with Ademos, in my opinion, was a great coach also. And he told, that's how everybody, we all think highly of Chris, but there is no guarantee, when you go to the market of, if Chris, God forbid, go to the English national team, that you'll find a great coach. But I know at the time we'll do a thorough search, and we'll find the best replacements. But hopefully that day will not come soon.
Yeah, we can't control everything, but I think you'll agree that one of the great accomplishments this year was extending Chris's contract. So we know
I really think that this will not be his last contract. I think we'll take. We want Chris to be part of the future of the club, not the next 5 years, but even longer. And I think in the future, in the near future, fans will hear things that confirm that desire, and that we want him to be with us. And as I always say, action speaks louder than words.
Right. I think it's probably fair to say that outside the big six clubs, anybody associated with the Premier League club has always got relegation in the back of their mind. And clearly Kevin Richardson in Abu Dhabi is thinking about this issue when he asks, what levels of player investment do you think will be necessary to maintain realistic chances of retaining Premier League status over the next 5 years, and in what areas? Prince Abdullah, do you have some thoughts for Kevin?
I really think that it's difficult to tell. That depends on injury and performance. You never know what how player will continue to perform at the same level they're performing at right now, or if injuries come, or if one of the young players grow to be come from the academy and he's a very good player. I really think that it's difficult to talk about to talk right now about the future and be very specific. So you have to take it one transfer window at a time. So I really think that all what I can say, we're committed to the club, and the most important thing that we will be a Premier League club, and as also Stephen said, that we also improve the facilities. And that's one of the things we're really looking forward to. And we're not talking also only about the first team building, but even the stadium itself and the academy. And all of these things, okay, maybe got delayed a little because of the unusual year we had, but things will move quickly again very soon.
Okay, let's we wrap this up now. And before we leave, I'd like to hear from all of you if you have any final comments for the fans, starting with Prince Abdullah.
I really look forward to the fans coming back to the stadium. We really need them. We miss them. I really think that the Wolves game yesterday would have been different with the fans. We have one of the best fan bases in the world. And I don't say that just because I'm a Sheffield United fan. I remember the ex-Tottenham Hotspurs manager who said that the most difficult stadium he played in was Sheffield United. So because of their fans. So I think I'm looking forward to the day that our fans can come back. And as I said, we finished 9th last season, but this year will be difficult, and the Premier League is a brutal league. But I'm optimistic that we will end up in a good position, and I'm optimistic about the future of the club, and not only on the field, but even the facilities and everything. And I like where we are right now, and if we all work together and in one direction, I think we will all take the club to bigger and better places.
Thanks. Prince Masad?
I would like to thank the fans for the great experiences and memories I have had with them last year, and for all their contributions. And we can't wait for them to attend again. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the board, Stephen Bettis, Chris Wilder, the players, the staff, and our VPs for all their contributions for the success we have achieved last season, and hopefully we can continue at the same pace. And as Prince Abdullah touched, we have the future looks bright for us, and we look forward to getting on with the season.
Stephen?
Yeah, I think just touching on from what Prince Abdullah and Prince Masad said, I mean, obviously we really appreciate the support of the fans. Without them, this football club is nothing. We do understand the difficult times that everyone's been going through the last 5-6 months with it, and I hope that the club has been a support to the local community during that period, and I hope we continue to be that going forward. And I think we all look forward to the day when we've got a packed house of 32,000 people in here, hopefully watching us beat one of the top 6 in a game in the near future.
That brings our evening to a close. I want to thank you again for all of the perceptive and thoughtful questions. We apologize if we weren't able to reach all of the questions. but we hope that we've been able to share some of our plans and aspirations for the club and for the future, and that you found it informative. I also want to thank Prince Abdullah, Prince Masad, and Stephen for your thoughtful answers to these very good questions, and also thank our communications team for making all of this possible. I'd also like to make two special mentions. First, Lee Coffey, my partner at Jones Day, who's navigated us through 3 years, almost 3 years of litigation, and done so successfully and patiently. And we are truly indebted to Lee. Lee hails from Hillsborough and is a devoted owl, but we consider him part of our family now as well. I'd also like to thank Darren Baker and his team at the Sheffield United Community Foundation. The foundation does excellent works in the Sheffield community and sets an example for all of us as to how to treat our neighbors and make our community a better place. So thank you, Darren, for your leadership and all that you do with the foundation and your team there. So that brings us to a conclusion. Thank you very much for spending your time with us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you at the Lane as soon as possible.